Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when you are watching us or looking at us or reading us. And thank you for being in the Material Business Podcast. My name is Monica Hernandez and I'm with Infinity Pro. And I have today a super special guest. Ashley, thank you so much for being with us and for accepting the invite. You are the first person that comes and talks about welding, so we are very excited about that. Actually, let me just go ahead and do the introduction first. So, Ms. Cameron has a decade of welding and metallurgical engineering experience in the petroleum industry, including design, construction, maintenance, and turnarounds. She's worked for Canadian oil and gas owners and in central engineering roles at critical assignments. She's also worked as a consultant supporting both domestic and international. So, Americas, Europe, Middle East, and Asia. Owner users, fabrication shops, and mechanical contractors for welding or metallurgical needs. Areas of expertise include WPS and quality program optimization, turnaround planning, as well as support for effective and efficient execution of planned and unplanned outages, fire damage assessment, and failure analysis. She received her mechanical engineering degree with materials option from the University of Windsor in 2016 and holds her PhD in Alberta, pursuing the PE in Texas. She is an active member of ASME 9 task group and a member at large from the American Welding Society Alberta chapter, an active member of the AWS Houston section, member of API 582, and vice chair of the API 577. Thank you so much for being here, Leslie.
You're welcome to be for having me.
So, lots of technical, lots of involvement in the areas of standards and guides, which is very important. So, can you share something about your career in welding, something like a project or something that has been really pivotal in your role as metallurgical welding? By the way, my degree is also in metallurgy, so I was
Nice.
like, yes.
Yeah.
So
It's
have
a dying
you?
breed.
It is, and nobody knows what that is, right? So everyone is like, what is that? So even peer engineers in other areas have never said right away, oh, I know what that is. So it's very interesting.
Yeah, so you might be you gotta make your head of something. Most of the time, for a good amount of time, it's metallic in nature or have metallic components of it. So
Definitely. Did you recall any project that you you have good or bad feelings about it that you want to share with the audience, so maybe they can be put in context?
yeah, for sure. I think that I genuinely was trying to jump into that specific one, kind of a timeline of how I ended up into the welding world, if that helps. It's kind of like
That'll be
prime the
nice.
audience.
That'll be
Okay,
awesome.
sweet. So, well, the background, I came from a very rural farming community in Ontario, Canada. We didn't know what grocery stores were for a long time because we just farmed everything and we go to the farmer's market and change food at the farmer's market. So I feel tinkering a lot out on the farm, doing lots of different farm tasks, but I do pumps, working on grass layers, planting, seeding, selling, etc. on that front. And my stepfather was, he worked at a foundry, actually, doing casting for automotive engine blocks, I believe. So it was back where casting. And he used to do vibrators, which I thought was really cool. So I used to be around taking around town. And I thought, and you're an automotive engineer. That's kind of cool. And like cars, engineering seems kind of neat. And then when I went to school, when I went to in high school, a lot of people don't do post-secondary education. But that back at the time, and it's changed since then, a lot of people didn't even finish high school all the time because you just went into working on a farm or driving truck, for example. So it was a big shift for me to go outside and go post-secondary. So I started automotive engineering. I was like, this is kind of cool. And I ended up fortunate getting a co-op position, not through my school, but through my own research I'm out in Fort McMurray, Alberta, in the oil sands, which is significantly farther from Windsor, Ontario, and very, very warm. For those of you who are familiar with the geography of that. And I started working in an oil sand facility doing data entry for U1 forms into an RQI program or a risk-based inspection program. So just putting in the materials and the thicknesses and, the dates and all that jazz. And I started just having some of the other students, and they were doing these horrite tapes. It's placing the tag packages. I was like, whoa, and what is that? It's cool. Where they take the information from a design component that needs to placement, and maybe uses this buying information that's also what they're doing, and they just still place it in that indexable. So replacement and kind are the same. So I'd start popping around, and hey, what's this? What's that? And I started to get into some of the other engineers, the mechanical engineers, and some of the inspectors, the EKI inspectors. And I start to be able to do these RAKs and whatnot. The turnaround manager took note of that and brought me over to the turnarounds or the planned maintenance, significant planned maintenance event, where I came along with a lot of inspectors, EKI inspectors in particular, and wrote repair packages, and with the blessing of my senior engineers, of course. And when I went back to school after I did, I think it was 16 months or something, I had done it, pull up. I extended it. I was like, okay, I gotta go back to school. So I went back to school, switched from automotive engineering to a materials version of mechanical. And I was like, hey, this cracking explosion thing seems to be a really big problem in these industry. So I switched into that, continued my education, and I am very fortunate got hired for another school by another owner user in Fort McMurray, Alberta, in the oil sands. And I started there. But I really didn't have a materials engineering position directly built when they asked me, hey, would you be open to being an inspector? I said, oh, yeah, it's great. I know a lot of these sectors. I really enjoy hanging out with them. We joke around a lot. And you learn so much from the inspectors. They see in so many different things, so many good things. And you learn always how to get inside pieces of equipment because they can smile their way in one way and perfect. That was a very, very important lesson there. So I worked as an inspector for quite a bit of time. And then I tried to make Meditech came and said, hey, no more playing around, writing reports and looking at stuff. We need you as a materials engineer. So I practiced heights for a little bit. And then eventually the hammer came down and said, no, we need a materials engineer to progress on. So I went into the materials engineering role and continued that. And from there, I found my way into welding. So where they have these weld procedures or this and that. And I said, man, it's kind of cool. And I see them welding all the time. And I've seen welding on a farm and this and that. It's kind of neat. And I ended up getting really close with a lot of the welding makers at my site. And learning about the shop, in our own shop, that we had a very sizable central research shop. Soda shops, which were really neat. And I really been procedures. Nobody on the site really wanted to mess with weld procedures and welding. And I really just kind of dived right in those dive. So this kind of neat. Let's check it out. So that's why I got into welding engineering. And from there, I became a site welding program over, I suppose. And, everybody who's starting out their welding management system went through me, all their weld procedures went through me, and would train all of the other materials engineers to review and what welding is and this and that. It's a very, like the general engineering of metallurgy, welding engineering is also dying art, and people just think, oh, it's fine. Just weld it together, easy peasy. And it's quite an art and a science, and it's not an exact science, and it's not an abstract art. So it's very, very peculiar to be in that world. It's never one size fits all answer. Even the same moment. So I guess
it's so interesting. I mean, you like what we were saying just some minutes ago is nobody really knows and understands what's metallurgical, but then it has so many different branches that you were able to experience. So you were able to have not only touching the vessels and going inside and out and seeing and really understanding the mechanisms and seeing them for sure. But also the background on what can happen if we don't weld this correctly, what can happen if we just take whatever piece of pipe is left over in the shop. What can happen if people is not trained, what can happen. So all the other areas, it got you to kind of make the link in between them.
I have very much that. I always tell people I'm a very hands-on, practical person. I always tell people, I was never an A student. I never don't think I want to be an A student. I had a lot of time for people who are, but I was a very figure and I would kind of problem solver. Kind of like, tinkering and very hands-on, trying to figure things out. But I need to see things. I'm a very visual person. Reading things is fantastic. At first, I can read it, but, I have to see it to believe it, so to speak. It was very neat kind of an aspect because, like you said, you get not only me with the inspectors and the first people who would see the crime scene, so to speak, but also what are the damage mechanisms, what happened there, what's your root cause analysis, is there a failure analysis, can you determine what it is? Sometimes you can't. You know what the likely damage mechanisms are, and then when you get in or problem, you're like, hey, this is not what we expected. So how do you determine those things? And then you have to put it back together, which can be very tricky. And it's not just, go ahead and put some mill beads on there because you can cause a lot of damage, especially in service aged material. And I'll kind of loop that into the question of a very interesting job that I've worked on. And it was also in Fort McMurray, another owner-user site. And it was on a proprietary material, which I've worked on numerous other instances. Very high temperature application, very, very special. I always tell it, so it's a pixie dust material. They've got their little food juice or specialities that makes them, what they are in essence. And the other user found abnormality unexpectedly, and had called myself and another was one of the people to come in to help support. And it was very, very interesting because it's a thick wall casting material, high temperature application, operating around 800 to 900 degrees range. So these things glow red type deal. Certain components will glow red if you heat up the insulation. Very neat to see. But this material effect was aged significantly. And for those of those in the materials world, which I think most of the listeners are probably familiar with it, just like you make a material today, doesn't mean it's moving material down the road, especially if it's been in service at high temperatures, if it's been in cyclic service, low temperatures at that act as well, depending on the material. And this one was significantly aged in a high temperature manner. So you think you'll get these different precipitates in the microstructure that migrate or form to different areas on the strategic gray boundaries that make it very brittle or brittle. And it can crack. And it's very challenging to weld on, so if you don't weld it directly, it will crack. What is? So you need to complete a solution anneal. And it's not something where you can just cut up the component and take it to a big old furnace, throw it in, and solution anneal it. No, you have to do that in situ, so in place. Smooth resistant with the solution anneal. Again, very, very neat heat treatment, a very intensive, extreme heat treatment. I've had a very, very lucky experience to have seen and witnessed and been involved with many, many of them in the field, which is very neat. And that's to a point where you ramp up the temperature to about 100 degrees. Very depending on the temperature where you can almost see through, a 3-inch piece component. It's very cool. And what methods is allowed microstructure to get back into place and all that in kind of a lane stir. And you have to rapidly quench it with air. And then it becomes more weldable and as smooth as it could be compared to that new. So we help the younger user get to that temperature, complete a solution anneal, and there's always problems with solution anneals, especially at those temperatures, but the length amount of time to ramp up and then hold it and then strip it. So we have some complications that we're able to work through on there and had to complete another solution anneal because the first one was not successful. and then goes through the welding of it. Now, something that's cracked through wall to be very challenging because you fuse the rest of a to grind this all the way out and have a full penetration weld, which means you remove all of it, or to leave the indication and weld over top of it. If you remove all of that material, you have the potential of that material straining, especially if it's had a lot of operational stresses and strains and whatnot. So it was just time that they did not want to estimate the entire indication to do a full penetration weld, so to speak. So we use I don't use the word cracks. Cracks not a very appropriate term. But the through wall retractable indication, I suppose, is that we're mistaking it. And we came up with a very detailed and specific repair plan using a temper bead technique to get the plant up and running, and worked hand in hand with the welders, the welder foreman, all the steps involved. Because again, one or two wrong moves of a bead can cause significant issues, and we did find as we were welding that there were rejectable indications along the run, indicating that the base material was a lot more stronger, so to speak, and was pulling on weld metal, causing it to propagate an indication. So you have to deal with that in the midst of it. It wasn't quite really neat product or dog. It tends to have a whole spectrum of it. How you inspect for material, and you can't use UT on it. The technology is not as advanced yet as it may or may not become because of the large weighing average. So you really limit it to the surface inspection. So, and we learn the damage mechanisms. These are what we think it could be. What is actually there? And I always tell people, what we do is knowing like this TFI agent and a doctor and one for metal. So you gotta go like root out the crime scene, say, okay, it's not this, it could be this, could be that. And sometimes you get to the culprit, and sometimes there's an array and you can't determine that because of time sensitivities or materials or what have you. And you gotta go through that exercise, which just can be very intensive, especially when people want an answer right away. We are now in losing body production. We need to get up and running at 86 this, and then stage highest, and well, that's specifically how it takes us until you know it's not, or at least had an idea of it. We went through the whole metallurgical aspect in there, took samples and in situ metallography, so function listing of the material, which is really neat. We're just going to get the surface of the structure on that. So you have your limitations on there, but use all of that information to determine what the damage mechanism is, and then come up with the repair plan, and then educate welders on how to execute that repair plan, because I don't know if everybody helps, but I'm an arts fan. I really like art. I have a membership at the Museum of Fine Arts here in Houston right now I reside, and I use this reference all the time. And I saw the cost of it in person, which is very exciting. And I say, the cost of painting, beautiful, beautiful painting, fantastic. If I can pick up my big brush and my canvas, I'm not going to make it look exactly like that. But we can't expect our welders who are able to complete very sophisticated repairs, perhaps in a shop with a mock-up or a procedure, to do that just because it did buy a ticket and said, oh yeah, I'm a welder, I'm a painter, I can do that. It takes training and coaching and practicing and all that to get to that state, or as close to that state as we possibly can. So it was really cool. We spoke the welders as well on that, and they were on the ball. They actually came over from UK, which was fantastic. But yeah, with that, the something that I say to repairs to date, I'll be very honest with you, because it was phone call, hey, we need you up here right now, and I was in Houston. It's like, right, I'll be on a plane in a couple hours, and you show up and you figure it out. So,
how long did it take?
For the actual repairing with that, I think that was up there for just under 2 weeks. Just under 2 weeks, including the inspections. I wasn't fast for the dirty lot of the equipment, so to speak, or the oil
Information.
Yeah, but it's just under 2 weeks in total. So, which is a
Wow.
lot in production time.
Yeah, that's what I was going. But I mean, oh, amazing. Like, you went through like the whole spectrum. And sometimes, we And we have emphasized this a lot, but you said something very important that I want just to reiterate. It's not because when we design a plant, we assume some mechanisms, or because the CCD, the corrosion control document, is telling me that, but that's outdated of 5 years or 7 years, and it's not a dynamic document, or the RBI is not telling me all the story. When something like that happens and it's an aged equipment, we can't possibly think that we can use what we used 7, 10, 20 years ago. We need to have, an updated version of what can, like you said, it's a new recipe for an older individual rather than the younger person that was born some years ago.
Yeah. It's even again, like when I was doing a lot of work internationally and still today, because I do a lot of work, although people call you up from out of the blue or message you out on LinkedIn and be like, yeah, no problem, can you help me? And it's like, okay, I need very little detail.
I know, yeah. It's interesting. The other day they sent me a picture and they said, can you determine the remaining life? And I was like,
I always tell people, you try a voltage test, and in my full Western look at and like you did a materials engineer or another splinter in there, and they'll tell you everything you need to know. It's like my favorites. You test. But people see a very, very little snapshot. I'm sure it's across the board. We really gotta sit there and extract the information. And I always tell people, like, and I use a crude unit as an example. A crude unit is a crude unit is a crude unit is a crude unit. There's only so many variations on the overall process, but everybody's got their minor traits. So I always tell people that your crude unit is special because you operated it this way, you've done these repairs, you've done this to it, you may have left it for this amount of time, maybe you've done these inspections, maybe you haven't. So even though all the crude units are relatively comparable, it has the specific aspects that your entire, use the refinery as an example, that your refining organization that's on through. So you can't just sit there and do, one size fits all, or for one of my single employers, you always say old bad consulting. Old bad consulting doesn't work anymore. It's not, oh, well, this is how you do it. It's like, no, we actually need to determine what's going on because these plants have been in operation for 40, 50, 60 years, and what worked when it was at its end rate doesn't work necessarily now.
Absolutely. And that ties down into the sustainability. How are we extending properly the life of these assets, and that were designed perhaps for a shorter lifetime? So we designed for 20 years on piping, but these pipes have been in those pipes or pipelines have been in process or in service for 50 years. So how do we do it safely and responsibly? So it gives us what we want.
100%. And a lot of times people always tend to not think about this. We have a fantastic code, standards, recommended practices, industry guidelines, our own individual specs and all that stuff based off of industry learning. Now, as we take that and it should be, and what we're seeing now, what they did in the 40s and 50s, I can tell you, rest assured, it was not to the same level of what we're doing now, and it's still operating to some extent. So you need to take that into consideration, where it's like, this says you've driven it. I use this all the time at Fort Mac. I believe you know Highway 63. That stuff. This says you've driven from Fort McMurray to Edmonton on Highway 63 100 times. Doesn't mean you're going to hit a deer or a moose. So you got to think about that. Just because you haven't hit something prior doesn't mean you won't in the future. Just because you haven't had a problem in your equipment today doesn't mean you won't. You really need to be cognizant of, the aging effects. I had a really cool dog that came out that I believe it was a 2.25, or it was supposed to be 2.25. It was 2.25 at the time. But after significant amount of time and operations and exceeding their suggested operation rates, when you go back and you do your PMIs, and later we did instantly and boat samples and got the sample, it wasn't totally that 2.25 chrome that we had thought it was. So that's something to consider as well. Your materials can change as they age, and especially they're not in that sweet spot where they're supposed to be or should be, as we all know that doesn't always happen.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there is always ranges and all that. It's so, you know, depending on the industry, but regardless of the industry, the issues seem to be very connected. And it's this is a consideration that is very important to have. So thank you for bringing that up. It's really, really awesome. Yeah. So you mentioned you are very involved with the codes and, the standards and, the committees and all that. What do you think is that involvement helping you on progressing the career? Or how you think that involvement at some point was important for you being the expert you are now?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I always I never to this food, but I've had very good timing with things in my life. And not intentionally at all. It just a lot happened. And I found myself out when I was doing consulting with an individual that works a lot with ASME. He said, hey, we're doing a virtual ASME for their professor as a cool meeting you. There's a link you should probably listen into section 9 of just the welding code. I said, okay, all right, I'll do that. I'll put it on in the background as I'm typing, do my regular. Anyways, I got to a point where I was like, okay, I probably shouldn't say this that high because and I was like, oh, this is really interesting, and I start listening in and, putting my hand up and, just offering little insights. And I connected with an individual who had been kind of loosely introduced by a friend of mine. And his name is Bill Gill, and he is a fantastic co-committee member, amazing welding engineer. And I asked him after the meetings after we exchanged contact information. I said, "Hey, Bill, would you be a mentor to me? I've got some experience, and but a lot of it I had to learn on my own because we didn't have welding fees, for example." And he was, of course. So we set up on the meeting and was, attend these meetings when we chit chat about certain things, as well as another individual named Gary Coates of the Nipple Institute. It's a fantastic guy as well. I highly recommend people look at the Nipple Institute. So I want to get information on there. So I started attending these meetings, and then I started attending in person, and you're going to meet a lot of these policymakers or the movers and shakers, so to speak, in the not only the welding world, but also your boilers, your pressure vessels, your piping, pressure relief devices, et cetera, et cetera. It's been very, very significant understanding how the codes are made, how they're updated, how they're dealing with interpretations or erratas or code cases or what have you. And you really get a network. I am a big proponent of networking. I'm a social butterfly. I've always been told that people don't believe that I'm an engineer for books like this. So I'm very extroverted. I'm usually the life of the party. If I walk into a room and it's quiet, it will be very loud and I leave. And yeah, you get a network and meet so many people. Talk about your experiences. You'll learn some their experiences and talk about what you've done. And they say, well, did you consider this? And you're like, no, I did not consider it. Oh, well, next time I'm going to. And this past week, we had the ASME, Pleasure Muscle Subcommittee here in Houston at Shell. And it says Section 9 and Section 8, which is the Pleasure Muscle Code. I believe there were some other a number of others virtually. And I was sitting with one of the other committee members, and we were chatting. It was sort of funny. I was like, oh, I like your blazer, because they had a really cool blazer on. But he was like, oh, I like yours. And then we started, I think we were very in the middle part, but we started talking about repair. And I was showing up pictures and talking about this, and you'd ask the questions. And it was really interesting because I was like, man, he's like the guy, so to speak, the welding world, and he's asking me questions. And he's like, why don't I do this specifically all the time? But he's like, I really like the approach. And he's like, I wouldn't even thought of that approach. I would have thought to go this way. I said, yes, to consider this, but we went this way because of accessories. You really could do a melting of the line, and not only the communities do you learn a lot about experience of other users, manufacturers, file testers, and the whole regulators, a whole array of individuals. It's the after the meeting for pasta hour or dinner, which you really get a lot of information, and they've been if they've ever can leave this story. But it's really, really good in that aspect. I'm continuing to do so because the networking and the understanding and the sort of friends is huge. It's huge. Another mentor of mine, Walt Serco, I can call up, send him a message like, hey, what about this, what about that, then with Bill, and if you don't know the answer, obviously tell people, hey, I don't know the answer, but I know somebody who might, and it just opens the opportunity, those doors to say, hey, can I follow you by on an issue? And I had somebody saying no, yes. So,
That's so cool. And I watched a video the other day where this guy said 99% of the people that I have asked for help have said yes. And yet we are sitting down doubting ourselves, like, should I raise my hand, should I question, should I? And so it's really nice that you brought that up, because that brings a lot of context on what we have repeatedly said in the podcast with other brilliant people that have come, especially women, that feel so intimidated to speak up, or so perhaps it's not the time, or I'm not the person, or so going and finding someone that is behind you and where you can learn, just having those guides in your way, it makes a huge difference. So it really, I think it sparks again the conversation on how did you get more exposure. Well, be out there and do reach out, because people want to help.
they do, and it's a really interesting thing too as well on like the part of it, because I've been told like all the time about line care and not meals, and I dressed up and this and that. And I worked as a refiner. I used to like for a long time. And people are like, no, what are you doing here? And I'm like, oh, you're welding an expert, or I'm this and that. Like, yeah, what do you know? I've been doing this longer than you've been born. And it's like, okay, I love that for you. I'm not undermining your experience at all, but like, have you really thought about this or whatnot? And I will say something that's really, really cool, especially in the admin production, particularly the Section 9 to me. We look around, you're starting to see like, first of all, they sit them at the U-shaped table, and the members all sit there, and everybody else sits in the peanut gallery, as they call it, all the visitors. And you're starting to see a lot more women sitting at that table. Table was nervous at Edmonton. Alberta NMH, she's on there. Teresa Nolte from Lincoln, fantastic. She's the chair of one of the separate. Stacey Marks at BV, also on a number of Section 9 and Section 8 committees. And it's really neat to start to see like a lot more like, people of volunteers or verify yourselves or this and that showing up at the table. And and the committees are realizing that. My mentors like, hey, we need to start bringing in, ladies in, because they have a different perspective to stuff. And it's being very well welcomed. I know for myself, initially when I started attending, I was like, I don't know, should I shine on? And I don't know, ballsy. And we're like, oh, hey, what about this? With that, and once you start getting that momentum rolling, you feel more comfortable and confident speaking. Knowing when's the appropriate time to put your hand up in the conversation and how to communicate with people. So it's kind of neat.
Amazing. And yeah, absolutely. As you getting exposure teaches you the ways of making it at the right time. And then how to bring it up is not to be a threat, but it's just a different perspective that perhaps nobody has ever thought about before. So I'm glad that we are in a momentum that allows for that to be, safe to to bring it up. But I'm also very glad to hear that there is a lot of more women in the room, and then that it is getting widely supported by the leadership, that this is bringing a lot of good stuff, because there are some things that perhaps we would have not thought about before. And the more diverse teams are in any circumstance, the better results there will be, because you have more challenges, you have different perspectives and ideas. So I guess what I will ask next is, what do you think is one of those things that help you be comfortable? And do you have any tips for, perhaps younger girls that are in this world that is male dominated, and they feel not yet very sure about how to build that up?
Yeah. So it's always a tricky and delicate line because every person comes with their own experiences and backgrounds. And I grew up very out in the field and the farm, and it's like the big burly guys and the farm workers. So I always kind of had that hover edge to be like one of the guys, so to speak. But I soon realized pretty early in my career that not everybody had the same experiences or the same viewpoints. Um, so when you're singing, and I'm missing the number of, females and males, in particular, the girls always ask, like, and I always say, like, hey, I'll be this and that, right? But, like, how did you grow up? Like, tell me about your life. Like, were you, like, going to atomic trucks like I did? Were you barmaids and this and that? And it's not a bad thing. It's just, okay, how do you fit? Or how are you going to maneuver through things? Lots of things psychology that's a hobby to have, which is a really great hobby to have. By chance, I always kind of make fun of my people on mind control books, but they're not. So I don't think so, anyways. And you really need to understand who your audience is and be comfortable or honest with yourself. So it's like you gotta really look at yourself and be like, who am I? And what do I want to be? And who you are right now, who you want to be, aren't going to be in the same place. And especially for young girls in a male-dominated world. Ashton told a lot of things in my career, a lot of things. All the things that probably aren't appropriate for this podcast. You gotta sit down. I think I always say, guys, tell the guys sometimes you gotta toss it out. Put on that thick skin. And is it always right? No. Is it appropriate sometimes? No. But you gotta be able to maneuver on there. And if they aren't wrong or inappropriate or something that you don't feel comfortable, you need to make it known. Don't hold it in a hot hole. And there's a certain way to go about it. Being more softer, or more aggressive, or more direct or indirect, or in group settings or non-group settings. So like that. And I felt persistent people out there, especially the little boys, are just kind of like, shucks, I don't care, and I know what I'm doing, and I don't need any input from you, and this now, what are you gonna know, type of deal. And I had it where I'd shut up on job sites, and they don't believe me that I'm the money expert, and I'm like, all right, I'll pack up my bag and talk. Wait, you're wrong. You fix this stuff yourself. And they had a very lovely conversation with their management, and their tone changed when I came back on site and stuff. So you gotta like really adapt to your audience. Sitting there and again, knowing who you are, what you stand for, and what you will accept and not accept is really important because people will cross those lines. It's not if, it's when, and it's how they do. So you really need to be cognizant of what your boundaries are. I've been yelled and screamed at many times, and I've had dates flip at me and says it with Charlie Connects. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Lost it for a second there. So
Okay.
we were talking about knowing the boundaries. That's the last part that I got.
Yeah, very important. I've had been yelled and screamed at and marched around and had tables flipped at me, and needs to just gotta hold it in. And I've learned a few techniques, and nobody ever really wants to talk about this. And I always try to bring it up is, we cry, and it's not because we're sad, it's because we get frustrated. And I've had it where you start to weld up in a very serious technical meeting, and it's like, how am I crying for these people? Some people will, and some won't. But I've learned unless I sit there and hold the back of my ear and pinch it, or the inside of my elbow and pinch it under the table, it helps prevent me from crying, and hold it to fountain myself until I can excuse myself and then get it out. And it have been, unfortunately, that's just the nature of the business. There was a old operator that called me one time. It was a really cool brilliant guy. His coveralls of the chest ring now, and bling on. And he said, we had, live go north to the Suki factory. We make oil here, not cupcakes. And I'm like, I did that, and that's the way I tell people, like, we aren't living in a sunshine all like Boston Rainbow's world. Now, we can act like that and bring that in and be more positive and energetic. But at the end of the day, we are in a very male-dominated world, and not everybody's going to appreciate that. So it's just learning how to navigate and maneuver in that world, I suppose.
I mean, it's incredible that we are 2024 and we're still speaking about these things. And I had that early on in my career, and I didn't have the tools to be able to respond correctly. So it's you have to go. It's like a learning experience. But I guess I at the age I am right now, it's like it's absolutely wrong. And
Yeah,
like you said it really perfectly, is you need to know what are your boundaries and make them respect.
yeah,
And you need to know what to accept and when to reject, and then the
yeah,
tone to decide that, and it's fine because it
yeah,
should not be. So
yeah,
if there is something that is unaccompanied, which is like you said, it is not if, it is when and
yeah,
how, then you need to be equipped to be able to get back the
yeah,
response in a way that keeps you safe. Because
yeah,
then those things it can be very helpful in the long run. And
definitely.
there is a lot of women that leave the industry just because they unfortunately don't have the tools and they don't have someone. So I agree with you. We need to speak about this and we need to say it's still happening and it shouldn't happen. And we need to build the tools because nobody has taught us that ever until we
Yeah,
face that.
yeah,
And it's like, oh, shit, I didn't realize this is real world. Okay. But
yeah,
unfortunately, like I have two mentees right now, and then both of them are at school, and both of them are kind of not realizing that can be something that they will be exposed to. So it's important that we bring those things up. And then building up on communication is one of the biggest things that I advocate for, because the more you're able to communicate, first, you know yourself, and second, you know how to treat others. And
yeah,
then that will bring that balance. So amazing. Thank you for bringing that up. It could have
yeah.
been in a more perfect way.
Yes, I will note too. I don't know if you had the experience, like just in the polar opposite, where it's like, oh my god, you need to talk to the HR, and it's like, man, this is partly because this
I'm not
whole
a kid.
spectrum.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
not a kid. Yeah,
right.
I know. I mean,
Like this.
the what you said about the cookies, when I was a student, it was only, well, it was the only one in the class, right? But there was one class that we were two. So it was like, wow, this is crazy. We have too many women in this career.
Yeah,
And then the teacher came in and he was teaching us siderurgic. And then he came in and he said, oh, you girls, this is not the cooking class. The cooking class is in the other building. So that just sets the tone for
yeah,
everyone else in the class.
yeah,
So that millisecond that you have to say, okay, how do I answer? Do I throw my chair at him? Do I punch him? Do I just cry? Do I quit? What do I do?
yeah.
It will determine the rest of the career, how the other guys are going to treat you.
Very much so. Very, very much
So
so.
it is a whole lot of extra effort on understanding what the boundaries are, and make that your Bible, like nobody's crossing this boundary or
Yeah,
this is happening. Yeah,
yeah. Very true. Very, very, very true.
amazing. Hey, we are almost at the end, and
Yeah.
see, I told you sometimes we are very we want to talk so much about, but we can come back anytime. I can have you back, and you
Yeah,
have
I love to.
version 2, 3, volume 2, 3, and 4, and all that. But for now, by closing this one, what will you say to the audience? And then perhaps what would be your message to the material business audience that is listening to us today?
Yeah, welding is cool. That's one of the coolest things. And I will say I've been attending a lot of meetings and I've been supporting a lot of different or users, mechanical contractors, fabricators, etc. And materials engineers and metallurgical engineers are a dying breed, and milling engineers are too. There, if you just go on LinkedIn and look up materials engineer, welding engineers, you will get so many hits. And I know a lot of people want to do the cool and sexy stuff and technology and space and, all these wonderful things, but there's a very, very, very large need in the existing facilities and industry that we have to see. And may have to be glamorous, but it's very cool. It's very, very, very cool. So consider looking into this as well, not just the glamorous stuff where you're in an ivory tower every day and typey. Like, look, why are you in engineering? Why are you in materials? Why are you in inspections? Why are you pursuing that? Is it to sit behind a computer and make flight decks every day, or do you actually want to be out doing cool stuff? So consider that. But again, there's not many of us. I was in an event the other day, and I was with Bill Newell, and he's in his early 70s, and I'm in my early 30s. That's a 40-year gap. And one of the people said, "Hey, when I can't follow you, like, and as long as it pays is fantastic, but this is sort of in the middle, and there's not really anybody in that middle gap. So when we start losing these, very well experienced people, we're next. And we don't have a lot of people that we can pass the torch down to. So really, really think about getting into the more non-glamorous things, I suppose, because you learn a lot, and you would be very lucky if you want to be forced that.
And it's bringing back to the basics, right? It is none of the, next level, but it's the basics. It's like learning to drive the stick car versus versus the automatic.
Yeah. But like you said, it's many branches. Like even in welding, there's traditional stick welding, TIG welding, but there's a lot of laser beam and capacitance stuff, and so many different avenues and cobots and this and that, and all the traditional stuff. So there's a wide variety of things that you can look into.
And Elsie, thank you so much for coming. I had a fantastic time. Time flew so fast. Thank you for, bringing all those tips, not only on the technical side, but also, on the more soft skill side, and then bringing all those points that are very important. And to all the audience, well, thank you for being with us, and then keep posted because there's so many other interesting things in the lineup.
It's awesome. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, I'm